Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my very great honour to be joined by the fabulous Mai Moore. Mai, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's actually Mai. It's easy to get.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My apologies. I tell you what, I'll do a clap and I'll redo that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Hold on. In fact, I won't do a clap. I'll do that. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my very great privilege to be joined. Oh my goodness, it's me that needs the
one of those days. Don't worry, it's one of those.
Sorry, days. It's Mai. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my very great privilege to be joined by the fabulous Mai Moore. Mai, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Kim. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it all week. But before we get stuck in, as I'm sure we will do, let me just tell the audience a little bit more about you. So you're an award-winning, almost social impact leader dedicated to fostering equity, connection and empowerment with a mission to awaken awareness so that we can see clearly to lead better. You've impacted over 4,000 individuals, including 2,400 diverse Gen Z persons. Mm-hmm. As the founder of Boss Me In and Setting Off Social Impact and co-founder of EYEJ, Empowering Youth Exploring Justice, you drive transformative leadership and social change by bridging diverse communities together to create positive impact together. Formerly in tech, you played a key role in taking two companies public. That was Travelzoo Inc. and United Online. Mm-hmm. And through your work, you inspire action, challenge perspective, and cultivates bold leadership for lasting impact. I love that. I love how you're taking kind of that passion and drive for connecting those communities and giving them a voice, and then empowering them to step into that. So could you bring that to life a little bit more for me, please?
Sure. I think it helps to give a little bit of history. My mother's Japanese, and she left home when she was 13 to come to the United States, and she was assistant concertmaster for Cleveland Orchestra. And I grew up in a city called Cleveland Heights in Cleveland, Ohio, in the United States. And it was a very multicultural environment, and obviously many different cultures to learn from. So I had always, growing up, experienced different walks of life, different kind of people, different, rules in different cultures, or the way people react and operate. And so I carried that through with me. And as you mentioned, I was in tech for a long time, over 20 years, and had an incredible career. But something had hit me where I just felt like, not only did there need to be change in tech, meaning, what a lot of people are facing now, where, sometimes women were going against each other to fight to that one spot, or a person of color, whatever the case may be. And something didn't sit right with me, and after a while it weighs on a lot of us that are in corporate. And so that was a point, and I never expected, let me just be very clear, ever to work with young people or work in social impact. That was not in my cards. But I had something inside me that I needed to focus on my purpose. I feel like I think a lot of people have like that moment of something doesn't sit right, and I feel like I need to be doing more. How can I help more? And so created the nonprofit EYEJ. And really it's about empowering young advocates for change. How do you take the idea of the changes you want to see for social injustices and actually implement them? And beyond the voice, because a lot of times we are doing a lot of talking, but we're not actually implementing them. So serve 2,000 underserved youth there, literally 2,000 went through a lot. There was a point I was homeless. I risked it all. I was a single mom at that point. And I just really believed in our young people. I believed in EYEJ. So it was really about perseverance. And with the help of 1,400 very diverse adults, we did some amazing work that changed culture, consent decrees, changed plans and strategy of how to help young people. And I was, quite frankly, super burnt out, on top of burnt out, on top of burnt out. And inside me, I felt like I needed to, that's based in Cleveland, and I needed to do something bigger. I felt like I wanted to get back on the national and international scale, still doing social impact. And EYEJ is very focused on kind of like the government side, and where else did we need reform? And I felt like it was in the corporate side. So I had became a chief and was really paying attention to what was happening with executive women. This is about 3 years ago, and all the noise about, the great resignation, pay gap, DEI issues, burnout was coming up, and women, feeling like they wanted to see change or they wanted to be more in their purpose. And so created Boss Me In, which is all about bridging the intergenerational gap for the future of work, very focused on intergenerational leadership, meaning really connecting between executives and Gen Z. And keep in mind, this is a very different set of population than EYEJ. Even the Gen Z are very different than EYEJ. And because, 5 years from now, 70% of our workforce is going to be millennials and Gen Z. And have we empowered and set them up for success, for leadership? I don't think so. And there's 5 generations in our workforce. So a lot of misunderstanding is there, miscommunication. And so trying to really bridge. And I think you hear a common theme of being like this bridge between worlds and many different kind of worlds. And where I'm at right now, I had just recently moved back to New York. I lived here 20 years ago. And, when you move, you just recently moved back home, there's a reflection that happens, right? And I think I was asking myself, what the heck have I been doing these last 13 years? And really what I realized is I was really building awareness, really raising young people's voices, or executive women or Gen Z's voices of what they want to see for this new world. And that's where I have arrived at, I call myself #almost social impact. Really, I think we're in a mode of really thinking in a new way about leadership. And I realized, like, I've been doing this for a long time. And in order to be a great leader in this new world, you have to be able to see clearly, because ultimately, I think all of us are trying to create impact or outcomes in some way. And what's happened, we can see it in the world right now. We haven't, in my opinion, been truly thorough. And if we can see better, then we can create better impact for positive change, not necessarily negative change.
I love that. Yeah, I spent nearly 30 years in corporate, so
Yes.
And you're right. There was big periods where instead of raising each other up, we'd be pulling
each other down.
And I think we also created a culture for decades and longer of making leaders feel that they've got to know all the answers. Just stops them listening. It stops them being open. It stops giving their people permission to be part of the solution. And that doesn't work for our younger generation, because that's not how we've parented them. So we've parented them to expect respect and to not be in that children should be seen and not heard space.
Right. And I don't blame us. I don't blame us, because that's how we were trained, right? We were trained. You have to be the expert. You have to have all the answers in order to rise to the top, right? But now we are seeing how toxic that is. And the truth is, we don't know all the answers. None of us do. Yeah. But if we come together, we really can create incredible impact together.
I love that, because I think the new iteration of leader for the evolving generations is one who is more curious, who's more open to learning as much as they are to teaching. And that's that goes, actually, we can learn and teach simultaneously, because there's things we don't know that we can be learning for, particularly technology. You know, I look at my little girl, she's 8, and I kind of think, how did you pick that up so fast? Or have you already worked out how to do it? And it's like, who showed you?
Right.
But they grew up in that world, didn't they? You know, I didn't grow up in that world. You know, I grew up in that when computers first came out, you got a coding book and you had to code it yourself. I'm that old. So the world bears no resemblance almost to the childhood I grew up in. And that's true for our younger generations, isn't it? And that's only going to continue to escalate with the pace that we are developing technology, that we are developing the kind of world around us. And so that ability to think different, to be courageous enough to be vulnerable and say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, is a hard step for people, isn't it?
Absolutely, because it's a conflict, because on one hand, vulnerability breeds trust, but in society we haven't really laid a foundation that vulnerability is acceptable, because sometimes when you're vulnerable you get attacked or, you know, judged or criticized. But the truth is, the more that we are vulnerable, we are showing more of our human side. And I really believe that this new world is about people. And obviously, when you are vulnerable, you are showing very human traits, right? Because the truth is, we are all vulnerable in some way. And it helps us to connect and understand each other better.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is, and it is. It is hard taking that first step, because, as you say, we have got we have created a society that isn't always very forgiving of different.
No,
isn't always very accepting of anything that's deemed to be outside of the norm. We've got a rush to put a label on everything. It's like, oh, got a label. That's okay.
Yeah, the blame game, all that. Yeah.
And that's something that we've got to, you know, we've got to systemically change, haven't we? It's got, you know, can't just, you kind of send somebody to a course and go, it's okay, you went on the course for 3 days, we're all good. Because actually this is about changing the way you show up in the world and the way that you lead, and you've got to do it consistently for people to buy in and trust the new way of working, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely. And when I call that, and that's a lot of my work, is where we're at right now is a great demand and need for self-leadership. You know, there's a lot of facing that we need to do as individuals, that self-work, spending time on our own to really be honest with ourselves. And, you know, again, we are human, so we all have good and bad traits. That's normal and that's healthy. But to be more accepting and embracing of that, and also just to heal. You know, a lot of us have been through trauma, especially if you're a woman. I don't care what background you're from. We all have adversity stories. But to get, you know, to work on ourselves to be more healthy, I think there's a huge demand, and young people have taught us that. And I think we as women know that too, is that there is a desire for more peace and more health, you know, and more interest in thriving, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And I think, you know, there's additional challenges for everybody, and as you say, everybody's got their adversity story. Nobody's life runs swimmingly all of the time.
No.
But there's also I guess a difference in the fact that you know, as women, there is the thing called the mother's load, where you are constantly thinking about not just you but the next generation. Is this safe? Is that safe? We're
raising my hand.
I'm a single mum too, and you're constantly like, you know, has she got everything she needs? So is this a good place for her to go? Is this going to keep them safe? And then doing it for yourself as well. So there's kind of like layers, aren't there, that kind of that you're having to try and spin those hats.
Yes.
And I think, you know, I see that particularly because I've got a little girl, and think I want to help shape the future she has, so she doesn't have to go through the same adversity. Yes. I know I can't stop her going through any adversity, no parent can, but you can try and equip them better, can't you? So that they, and some of that is by helping change societally what's acceptable, what we will tolerate moving forward, and actually what bits need to be left where they are, because then they're not going to get us where we need to go.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, and I totally relate with you on that way, because I always think about, you know, my own daughter. I have a 21-year-old, and obviously the young people that I've served, and same thing. I don't want them to have to go through what I did. I see a lot of stars, meaning like shining bright young people who are smart, and, you know, I want them to be empowered, and I don't want them to go through what I did. But on the flip side, there is also the other side of kind of an older mentality. I call it a little bit from capitalism, where people want people to suffer, you know, of what they went through. And I think that's the conflict where we are in society, is that you've got people who are open and embracing and trying to grow and really caring in a genuine way. And then you've got others that are saying, no, I went through this. I want you to go through this, you to have this same experience. So that's part of the conflict that's happening.
Oh, that so resonates. It takes me right back to my very first job, where I was a hairdresser for the first few years of my life, and my apprenticeship was brutal, brutal. And they were relentless. But then at the point you became a stylist, they're like, well, now you get to do it to the next one. I was like, why would I do that?
Right.
Why would I make anybody else?
Why? What's the point?
Go through that. Why? Why?
Right.
Because I would do anything to avoid anybody having to be in that position. But you're right. That's quite, that's quite polarizing. Some people will go, well, hold on, I had to learn the hard way, so everybody else should.
Life is already hard. I mean, and I'll be very vulnerable here. I actually, now that I just said that, I think my parents have some of that trait, you know, and I think that, quite honestly, it's a little bit selfish, because we're not really looking holistically at the whole picture of the child to say, like, wow, they're already going through X, you know, all these other things, and in a very different society than how they were raised or how they grew up. So I think we need to let some of that go. And that, to me, again, points back to the self-work that needs to happen, because what that shows is that people are not doing the full self-work on themselves. Because if we do the full self-work on ourselves, in my opinion, it's really about love. And is that love, or is that a conditional love? You know, I think a lot of times, especially in corporate, there is this conditional, transactional, performative love, which is not love.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that so resonates. I mean, one of the things I say to my little girl all of the time is love is absolutely unconditional. So never ever question. Exactly. Even if I'm frustrated with you, even if I don't like the choice you've just made, never doubt the love is there.
Yeah, be open.
That will be there.
Coming from a perspective, like, they have a different experience, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, you can take it or not, but we all have our stories, we all have our experiences, and to me, that's the beauty of the world.
Yeah,
that we need to embrace more. And I feel like we have been pushed down to say, oh, that's bad, that's not good, but it's actually, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's our lived experience, isn't it?
Yes.
And our lived experience, I believe we live our experience to share it with others, so that they can learn something from it that means they don't have to go through much.
We all relate in some way.
Bump, but maybe the bump won't be as deep, or it won't be as overwhelming, or there'll be that that hope that actually, if somebody else went through it, you too can get through it.
Yes.
Facing that same piece, because I think that's what we're looking for, isn't it? That connectivity, that feeling less alone. Because we've become much more easily connected, much more isolated as individuals, haven't we? Because we've got always on community. And I look at it for my little one, who is younger, she's only 8, and think, what world is she growing up in? You know, when I was at school, if somebody wanted to bully me, they'd have had to phone my parents and ask to put me on the phone. So funnily enough, didn't happen. They might have done it in school, but they didn't do it outside of school because they didn't have the same facility. But now you've got that always on environment that says, where's their reprieve? Where's their safe space? That allows them to fill their cup up, to give them the resilience for when somebody tries to empty it.
Yes. Beautiful. Done. Let's implement that everywhere.
Let's do that. But I think it is some of these ideas that they seem really simple and possibly too simple. But I think often it is the simple ideas that are the most impactful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I feel like that's sometimes my frustration. I mean, working with so many people is we overcomplicate things, especially as women. Especially as women. And it's like, come on. I mean, this is just my personality, but it's like, come on, guys. It's not that complicated. I have 800 other things on my to-do list and I other things to worry about. It's not that complicated. It's really not.
Yeah. But I think sometimes, I'd love your opinion. Sometimes that comes from almost a fear of, I read an article at once that said that it's not actually our darkness we're scared of, it's our light.
Yes.
We might actually be good at something, and that feels a bit egotistical, and that's really wrong. So we shouldn't do that. But we've gone so far the other way that we put barriers in front of ourselves to stop ourselves from shining.
And we can't blame ourselves entirely for that. I mean, we are human, so we always have light and darkness. It's about embracing it and how to work with it. And yes, I 100% agree. But we've also been taught that the darkness is sometimes, especially in this world, is sexier. We've been manipulated and brainwashed, which is why education is so important. And doing this podcast is vital to spread our storytelling and our messages and our insights, because it doesn't have to be that way.
That's so true. I think, the more we can, the one thing that I've always believed is the thing that connects us all, irrelevant of age, race, gender, culture, is we all teach and we all learn through stories. We've done it since cavemen drawings. We've done it with the hieroglyphics. It is our one common language that we can use to actually make a difference, to make the change, to make the unaccessible accessible, because that's kind of the stories, isn't it? It's to,
absolutely,
and make it easy to follow, so that you can actually see the steps that you could take to move yourself forward on the journey.
Absolutely. And you can create your own ideas, but there might be something that you relate to, or that you're going through, or you thought that was so just an issue with yourself, when in fact there are many people that are going through the same thing, and it's the absolute truth. It's about having the courage to sometimes be open or share your story or be vulnerable. And I believe the honest truth is, I believe just what I see. Again, I'm around a lot of people, and I try to stay very in the know what's happening right now, is that this is a time to speak up, share your story. People matter right now. People matter. And I think that we need to have a no risk scenario to just not be afraid to share that story.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, in fact, I was on a podcast just yesterday, and I said that, one thing I would say is, if anybody who's scared of public speaking or scared of sharing their story, if it just helps one person, just one, not million, just one,
I guarantee it. I'm going to say I guarantee it.
And it will, won't it? It will find the person it's supposed to help, and that should be enough. If we all just took that risk, if we were all willing to put ourselves out there at risk of what people are going to say about it, and go for the right person, it will help.
Absolutely. And sometimes even, I've heard a lot of people speak of all types, and sometimes an individual that you think is so far away from you, different, grew up in a different environment, totally different. Maybe their topic is so something you're not interested in even, there is something to learn. There is something to hear from that story. And so what I have learned, especially with EYEJ, doing over 1,000 discussions of, pairing and matching very different walks of life together, what I've learned is that we all relate in some way.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. It's so true, isn't it? I always say to my little one, we should look for the commonalities rather than look for the differences.
Yeah.
Because commonalities will get the connection. And there will always be commonalities. They might take a little bit more uncovering. They might not be so they might not be so obvious on the surface, but if we go in openly looking for, what do we agree on? What makes us the same? What do we feel that's the same, that we can understand each other?
Yes.
That's what forges the strongest connection, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, that honesty, that truth telling, that storytelling breeds trust. Really does.
And I think that's what the world's crying out for right now, isn't it? It's
absolutely. We don't know who to trust.
Who to trust? Where's the honesty? Where's the authenticity? Where's that I can kind of get a sense of you are who you say you are, and you are gonna be the way that that you purported to be. And I think the more people can start sharing their stories and creating those spaces for other people to share theirs, that's going to be how we learn and grow. I mean, that's the reason I set this podcast up, was to say I'm an advocate of the fact everybody's got a story to tell.
Yes.
And that story has purpose and it has meaning.
And I have a little call to action. And I think, I'm a truth teller. Sometimes I'm a little bit too straight and direct. I mean, it's part of my personality, but a lot of times that I get poo-pooed on because I'm telling truth. We're in a society that doesn't know always how to handle truth. And it's very painful a lot of times for me. And I think, again, we have to look at why that is. And again, I think that we have been brainwashed to think that the flip side is actually truth when it's not. We have been completely manipulated in that way. So I just ask for a little bit of grace when someone is sharing their truth, to be more open to it. Everybody has a story to tell, and truth is vital in this new world.
I so agree. And I personally, and it's my personal opinion, I always believe there's 3 truths at any one time. There's my truth, your truth, and the actual truth. And that's because my truth and your truth will have been slightly colored by what we've made it mean, by our emotional response based on our upbringing, everything that's happened to us, any adversity you've got. And so once you open your mind to that, to go, okay, well, what am I seeing? Or what am I not seeing that you're seeing?
Right.
So how do we pick underneath that and find out where's the commonalities, where's the bits where we mean it differently? Then we can create that grace to recognize that just because I'm right doesn't make you wrong, and just because you're right doesn't make me wrong. Both can exist, but we might have a vantage point that is different to each other.
Absolutely. And the question is, are we truly listening, or are we listening to respond? That's a big one.
It's so true, because we've got scared of silence. We know that when I stop speaking, you're going to have to start. So actually, midway through me speaking, you'll start thinking about what you're going to say, because heaven forbid there's the silence where we wait for a second because we're reflecting on what the person said. And I think they're all skills we've got to relearn, aren't they?
They are, and we have to make it a normal in culture and society.
Yeah,
we have to demand it.
Absolutely. I can't believe the time has literally disappeared.
Yes.
Half an hour.
Oh my God, we could talk for hours.
Oh my God, we could. I've so enjoyed it. But before you go, can you share with us how you help people, who you help, and how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kim. I do help a lot of people. First of all, with my own business, the Awakening Awareness, so that people can see more clearly to lead better. I do a lot of public speaking, and that's really to audiences that are not in the typical way that we think, but people who are interested in leadership, growth leadership, change, are curious. I speak to communities, corporations, classrooms, whatever. Please reach out for that. I also, like I mentioned, run Boss Me In. That is very focused on corporations that are focused on intergenerational leadership and need programming and support and want to bridge with executives and Gen Z. So that's that organization. And then EYEJ is very focused on young people who really want to see change more from a social justice lens and implement change for different injustice areas. So
amazing. And for anybody who didn't get to write all that down, please don't worry, it is in the show notes below.
Yeah.
So just have a little look below and you'll find all the ways to connect and all of those businesses. And again, I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
You're great.
And standing up for our future generations. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found it as inspiring and insightful as I did. And until next time, take care.